Hey folks, David Stewart here. Pop cult apostates. The apostates of the pop cult. That's what I want to talk about today. Let me give you a little bit of context about what I'm going to talk about before I start diving into the meat. So 5 years ago at this point, early January 2016, following up The Force Awakens, I made a video called Stop Being a Fan because I saw the fan-like obsession. I saw fandom as a problem following up Force Awakens, which was a terrible movie. I made a video about how bad it was because I just felt so angry at how bad the movie was and how much other people seemed to like it. And I got so much backlash and so much hate. I had people like calling my employer. I had like death threats and things because I said Force Awakens sucks. It is a terrible movie. And I saw all of these things as a result of fandom, this religious-like obsession with franchises, with popular music. That's why it's called the pop cult. I'm lifting that term from a friend of mine, Brian Niemeyer, who I've had on the show a bunch of times. We talk about like the death cult and the pop cult. Pop cult is this religious feeling of identity towards franchises like Star Wars, Star Trek, even things like music, like being a Metallica fan or something like that. People have personal identity and religious reverence bound up in the things that they adore, the products that they consume, basically, the entertainment that they consume. So I saw that as a big problem. So I've been talking about this for 5 years. I feel like a broken record sometimes. Let's fast forward to today. Couple of events that happened this week that I think are interesting. So another YouTube channel, Geeks and Gamers, they do, I don't know, stuff that's kind of like my Outrage marketing content. I do a variety of content, but my Outrage marketing stuff always has more reach for reasons that I've detailed in my book, The Keys to Prolific Creativity, which you can get for $2.99 on Amazon for the ebook, and I think the paperback's like $7 or something if you want a physical copy. Anyway, short read, very good for helping you get your work life in order to have your creative output be substantial, especially over time. Anyway, talk about it in their Outrage marketing. So they do that kind of stuff. They were doing a fundraising event for suicide prevention. This is something commendable. They had Zack Snyder. They ended up on a stream with Zack Snyder. And of course, what has happened recently is there's been a re-release of the Justice League with the Zack Snyder cut, a 4-hour-long cut of this superhero movie, because he had to leave the movie in post-production due to some family tragedy, and Joss Whedon basically reassembled a different cut and maybe did reshoots and things like that. So this is a different cut of the movie. Kind of similar to, there was a different cut of the Superman 2 movie that came out at this point like 15 years ago or something like that. So it's kind of similar situation to that. You had a director getting replaced somewhere in the production and different visions, that kind of thing. This is something that fans had been obsessed with over the past couple of years, like release the Snyder Cut. So yes, they finally released the Snyder Cut. Anyway, Zack Snyder was on this stream, and then the first thing he says is, there's Geeks and Gamers, logo on here. We are in no way associated with them. There's no association. Let me say there's no room for hate, blah, blah, blah. He basically inferred that the Geeks and Gamers people were a hate group. And this justifiably upset a lot of fans, and they're like, we're not going to watch now the Snyder Cut. And so a lot of people were upset about fans not wanting to watch this Snyder Cut because they didn't like Snyder. And so I'm going to read a couple tweets from Doomcock, who's another YouTuber, I guess. I don't watch these people's content, just by the way. So if you watch their content, you have a better idea of who they are, but I don't watch any like Star Wars content, especially after Last Jedi, because I was just hearing the things that I said again later. I'm deeply saddened. So we have cancel culture in the fandom menace. Really? Hate Snyder, heap abuse on his idiot head. Yes, but if you skip watching this movie WB made, giving into our demands, you turn a victory for the Phantom Menace into a defeat, and they will never listen to us again. Here's another tweet. I'll go ahead and show these to you if you want. So it's like proof that these exist. I fight on because I love Star Wars. I've loved it all my life. And if there's any chance to save it, I'm going to take that chance. Don't be short-sighted. All this is connected. Save Star Wars, save our culture from the cultural vandals that would destroy it. So that is the pop cult apostate perspective. It's very naked. And this is something that's been going on with, I guess, a lot of channels over the past couple of years now at this point, which is that they haven't left the pop cult. They haven't said, I'm done with Star Wars. I was done with Star Wars after The Force Awakens, and really I was kind of done with Star Wars after the prequels. I don't hate the prequels now. I've gone back and rewatched them, and I find a lot of enjoyable things about them, and I've done some analysis content on them. But certainly after Force Awakens, I was done. I only went and saw Last Jedi because I popped onto my channel and said, hey, do you guys want me to go see Last Jedi? And everybody said, yes, go see it. I bet it's going to suck. Tell us if it sucks or it doesn't suck. I trust your opinion. So I went and saw it. And, my first opinion was like, I guess it's better than Force Awakens, but it's pretty bad, And I still have that opinion. I think Force Awakens is the worst movie compared to The Last Jedi. But after The Last Jedi, all these people started popping up. They're very upset about The Last Jedi, and especially about the way Luke's character was treated, where they turned him into this kind of angry little hermit who wanted to die but wasn't going to kill himself, whatever. So people didn't leave the pop cult. They didn't say, okay, I'm done with this and I'm walking away. Now, lots of you did, and lots of the fans did. Lots of the people who watched the content did. But you also got this group of people that call themselves the fandom menace that wanted to use social media and basically petition the mega corporations to change Star Wars the way that they wanted it to be changed. They wanted to fire Kathleen Kennedy. They wanted this and that. They'd say, Filoni and Favreau are going to save the franchise with The Mandalorian. And then, of course, Gina Carano got fired, and they got all upset about that because that's, their narrative basically falls apart. There's a lot of these imagined things that they have put out. Like there's some sort of civil war at Lucasfilm. I don't believe that for a second. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy will ever be fired. She will retire on her terms. And I don't think Filoni or anyone else is going to save the franchise. Not that there's really anything to save, and I'll get to that in a minute. So they haven't left the pop cult. They're apostates at the pop cult, because what happened is, if you are part of the pop cult, you're supposed to consume product and get excited for next product. So that first Doomcock tweet was like, how could you guys not consume product? This is a product that you wanted. Now you need to consume it. And I understand that perspective, because you think that you are going to be exerting pressure on these mega corporations to change what they're doing or to deliver a product that you want. So you haven't stopped liking Star Wars. You want Star Wars, but you're not part of the church anymore. It's like you've been excommunicated, but you haven't abandoned the faith. That's what the pop cult apostates are. They've basically been kicked out of the church because they didn't like The Last Jedi, one movie, and they, as a result, want back in. They want Star Wars to be good. They're not ready for Star Wars to not be good. And here's the thing. So here's the reality of the fandom menace. The first one, and I've said this on the Gina Carano video, the fandom menace is incapable of moving the needle. It's just not a large enough part of the fan base to do it. Now, they're in that long tail, which means that a lot of the people, if they say stop buying toys, that's a significant revenue loss. So I don't want to say that they're worthless, but when it comes to a lot of the things that a megacorp like Disney is going to look at as far as the viability of their franchises, the fandom menace, if you were going to be completely liberal and you say every person watching these YouTube videos, 100,000 people, there's 100,000 people that are the fandom menace. That's less than 0.1% of the people just subscribe to Disney Plus. So if they all canceled their subscriptions, if 100,000 people canceled their subscriptions, it really doesn't do anything. So that's the first one, right? It doesn't move the needle, at least not in a significant way that mega corporations are going to know or care about. They're not big enough. And I say 100,000, I think it's way less than that. I think the fandom menace is really just a couple hundred people that are very, very vocal. Their voices get amplified by the way things work. There's people who enjoy watching the content, but they're not going to agree with everything that the YouTubers are going to say. Number two, even if they could financially impact Disney or the other megacorps, Warner Brothers or whoever it is, the employees of those megacorps are operating under the belief that they are doing a moral thing. They are on a moral crusade. So when they insert woke politics into your favorite franchises, they're not doing it because they think you want it. They're doing it because they think it's a good thing to do. So even if it hurt the bottom line, the people, remember, corporations are staffed by people. They're not entities solely for profit, because that would be, they may say that on paper, but they're staffed by people who are political. So people are political, therefore corporations at least have the capacity to be political, and they're going to do political things. So the people that are in the megacorps, they are going to do what they think is the right thing to do, which is going to be to wokeify your favorite franchises. And the more vocal you get about it, the more that they are going to think that they should continue doing it. They're not going to adjust the product to suit what they consider a very small, toxic group of non-persons. They don't consider these fans to be people worthy of any kind of respect or care. In fact, they hate them. So they hate you if you're part of that group, or any part of the fandom that doesn't like these Disney Star Wars movies, or whatever franchise you want to look at. They consider you a toxic non-person. So of course they're not going to give in to your demands, because that would be wrong. They're going to try to do what's right. Number 3, even if they could financially impact the megacorps, and the megacorps were willing to respond to financial incentives, I don't believe the fandom menace will take the necessary actions to do so. They will never stop consuming the megacorporate products. Why is this? Well, I came to this conclusion after The Mandalorian came out, leading up to, The Rise of Skywalker, which was, 2 years they'd been they'd been making content and screaming about Star Wars. And The Mandalorian comes out, and that's the first thing they do is they get their Disney Plus subscription. They watch The Mandalorian and talk about how much they like it. This is a show finally made for us. Things like that. So what did all the belly aching do? It didn't do anything. They just consumed the next product that came out. And then I'm like, the fandom menace, I thought that they were going to all check out and they were going to stop buying corporate products, and like, well, we're watching this product very closely. It was like one of the comments that I got on the channel. I'm like, you're watching it. You're watching it. Yes, I watched it, but I make content. People ask me to watch it. People have asked me to watch the second season and make content on it. And I may do that eventually, but I had a 1-year moratorium on all Star Wars content after The Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, the channel needs to not have Star Wars content on it at all. I didn't have a lot of Star Wars content that year leading up to it. I did some following Last Jedi because, you got to get the views. You got to get people's attention. That's part of Outrage marketing. And I do talk about it in my book, The Keys to Prolific Creativity. This is something that I talk about, is like, you do the outrage marketing, you get attention, and then you follow it up with other kinds of content that people are interested in to help build a fan base and develop a relationship with people, so that your customers really are more like your friends. And that's important if you're operating in the social media space. So anyway, I realized, they're never leaving the ranch. They're just going to come back. So all the people that canceled their Disney Plus subscription because of Gina Carano, they're just going to re-up eventually, right? They're just going to turn it back on at some point and watch more Disney content because they can't. They can't check out of the pop cult. They aren't actually leaving the cult like many of us have and many of you have. Rather, they're apostates. They've been excommunicated, but they still believe in the faith, but they're stubborn and won't repent of their dislike of a particular movie and go back into the fandom or anything like that. So that's what they are. And the other problem, and I'll just, this is kind of the monkey in the room, is that outrage channels depend on things like Star Wars continuing to be woke garbage for their survival, for their money. All the views, all the clicks, the merchandise they sell, that kind of stuff, that is dependent upon Star Wars sucking. So they've really got to hope that Star Wars never becomes good again, because that's the end of their business. So I'm not saying that any of these people are insincere about what they're saying, but you realize that there's a dissonance there. There's a bit of a conflict of interest, because if Star Wars becomes good, they really are not going to have the same amount of clicks and views that they used to have. You can't, there's not as much interest in things being great as far as getting those outrage clicks. People like to click and see opinions that they agree with, or see what people are saying about something that upsets them. That is an easy way to generate traffic and clicks. That's what they're going to continue doing. So here's what I'm going to say. Star Wars, Warner Brothers owns Justice League, DC Comics, Marvel, any of these things. These are mega corporate intellectual properties. They're owned by gigantic, hegemonic intellectual property holders, companies like Disney. They are never going to be what they were. They're always going to be a mega corporate product forever. They will always be in the corporate IP death cycle forever, which means they're going to milk the customers until they can't get any money out of them. They let the property lie fallow for a while, then they reboot it to get the nostalgia bucks going again, and then repeat until forever, because they'll hold the trademarks forever, they'll hold the copyrights forever. I don't have to, I've done other videos on how corporations capture IP using trademark and things like that, but that's just where it is. It'll never be what it was. You just have to accept that. And the thing about saving Star Wars, the reality is there's nothing to save. There's no one left who made the original movies. George Lucas, all the producers, all the cast at this point are gone. There's no one left. There's nobody left from the movies that you like. So the artists are gone. So when you're buying Star Wars, it'd be like buying a new Beatles record and none of the Beatles are on it. Okay, I've talked about this before. You can't really separate the art from the artist in terms of the ownership of it. What makes the art have an identity is the artists who make it. So there's no one left who makes the movies. There's nothing to save. The Disney employees can't come in and steal away your Blu-rays or your old VHS tapes. They can't take the memories out of your head and explode them. They can't go in and change your happy memories of your childhood of watching Star Wars on a Saturday morning or whatever and turn it into something bad. They can't do that. There's nothing to save because they can't affect you in any way. They can't change what was into something else. Now, it might be hard to get the original cuts of Star Wars. That's mostly because of George Lucas. But the thing is that they can't take those things away from you. So there's really nothing to save. All they have is the state-created legal ability to sue other people who make Star Wars. So if you make Star Wars, they can sue you because the United States government says that they can sue you. That's what it comes down to. So they don't really own Star Wars. They don't have any sort of moral right to Star Wars. They just have the legal ability to sue you for making Star Wars content. There's nothing for them to save. So you should just move on. So if you're one of those people that's been waiting for Star Wars to be saved, and I've been seeing it for, at this point, 5 years, it's time to move on. It's the same thing with DC. If you're waiting for somebody to save, if you're waiting for somebody to like you as a fan, it's not going to happen. They don't like you, okay? They hate you in many cases. They view you as part of some sort of toxic fandom that is evil. So it's time to move on. Find other things that interest you or be part of the cultural change rather than saying you're waging a cultural war by bitching about Star Wars and promoting their brand. Really, I mean, if you really wanted Star Wars to go away, you would, you wouldn't be making outrage videos about it or promoting QAnon conspiracy theories about civil wars inside of Star Wars, Star Wars Land or Lucasfilm or whatever. You wouldn't be doing that because all that does is it keeps the brand alive and active rather than letting it fade to cultural irrelevance. The truth is, Star Wars is only really culturally relevant to Gen Y, Gen X, maybe older millennials. The younger generation doesn't view Star Wars that way. Star Wars is like an afternoon popcorn flick. They don't care about it. When I was a high school teacher, I had like 200 total students, I think. And because I was a band director, I had a lot of big bands. And anyway, out of those 200 students, 2 had seen any Star Wars movie at all, and they didn't care about Star Wars. So there was no high school kids in my group that cared about Star Wars. And I remember talking to them about it. They're like, we don't know anyone who's seen Star Wars. No one at school had watched Star Wars. Now, it's not a perfect sample, right? If you go to a different school, there's going to be more people. But when I was in high school, everyone had seen Star Wars. And when episode 1 came out, it was a huge deal. Everyone was talking about it. Every boy was talking about it. Most of the girls were talking about it. Star Wars was important to my generation. It's not that important to the other generations. So the cultural relevance is whatever you are giving it. And their decisions, as far as business goes, you have to let them fail. You have to let it fade into a more obscure kind of IP. It's going to be in the death cycle anyway. So maybe there's a break from Star Wars movies for a couple years and then they just resurrect it. They'll probably reboot the original trilogy in some capacity over the next 10 or 15 years. All that stuff's going to happen because the point is to exploit the nostalgia and get people to throw their money at it for for the pop cult to be engaged, to give them their donations. So you have to leave the pop cult. You can't just be an apostate and try to change the church without. You're not Martin Luther trying to post your 99 theses on the wall as if you can change anything. You need to just walk away. That's my message today. So thanks so much for watching this rather long video. I do appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. Keys to Prolific Creativity, you can get that for $2.99 on Amazon, and I think $7 for the paperback. And I have hardbacks. Yeah, the first two Eternal Dream books, Water of Awakening and Needle Ash, are now both available in hardback, so you can get those on Amazon. Thanks so much, and I will see you guys next time.